going to get started in creating your Scratch infomercial. You're going to need to program, as it says, effectively and efficiently. So you need to know how to set up everything and properly sequence your program. So let's get started. At this point you should know what a sprite is, and no, it is not a can of soda. The sprites are your objects that you are putting into the background. Now, in Photoshop, the sprite would be anything that would be layer 2 and above. It is something that you are going to program to do something or exist above what would be the next part, which is your background. The background is the very bottom layer. Nothing happens in your background. It just exists in the background. Now, whether your background is just a blank color or white screen or an actual image, as I have on here, it is up to you. Your background could be anything, but it is that bottom layer of Photoshop, so nothing is essentially on that bottom layer. What I'm going to have you start to do today is build your library of your sprites and your backgrounds. You're going to need to make sure you are labeling things properly. This is something that I will be grading. You're going to end up with a jumble of a bunch of different things. We're not worried about that. All we're doing right now is gathering our supplies. So your screen is going to essentially look like this. However, you will have all of your scenes and your sprites that you think that you're going to need for right now. So we're going to start with the scenes. You're going to have a minimum of 3 different scenes. Whether it is a scene that you have gotten from the library, as I've gotten scene 1, you can upload things from the internet and put them on to your backgrounds. Is something you would import after you have saved it, or if it is a scene that you have created, like I have done here with scene 3. Your scenes are going to be called scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. You're going to name your scenes in the top part right here in the scene workspace. So scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to have all of your sprites. Shortly I will show you how to upload your product, as you can see that I have done here. If you have anything else that you have uploaded, you can also put that in, like your price or your product name or something like that. You will notice that some of my sprites are characters, some of my sprites are items, and some of my sprites are plain text. This is what I would say would be the narration that appears on the screen on there. However, your sprites should be single names only. So I have one that is double named. How do I change the name? I click on the little I. When I click on the little I, it will bring me to the sprite properties. In the sprite properties, I would change the name right here. This is also useful if you can't find your sprite. It tells you if it is hiding or showing. Right now my donut is not showing on my stage, so this is, if I wanted to show it, I would hit the check mark, or I would make sure that it is programmed into my script for this sprite. New Scratch. You're going to, if you're in Scratch, you'll go to that Create button up at the top, or if you are in the editor window already but in something else, you can do File and New. Your infomercial is going to be called your initials, info, and your period. So 3, 6, or 9 based on what period this is. I am going to call this cycle 6 because you are cycle 6. So the first thing you're going to do is make sure that you saved it. Make sure you are also signed in to Scratch. Your CS number should be up here on the top. Now, I already automatically have my first sprite. This sprite, if I don't want it, there are a couple of different ways to get rid of it. If you mouse over top of the sprite, right click, you can delete it, or at the top, here are your tool options. I have a delete that are scissors, and I can just click on it and get rid of it as well. So the first thing I said I was going to do, I'm going to go into my backgrounds. So I'm going to come over here to my stage, and I am going to choose a new background. There are two ways to do it. At the bottom, you can click on the little icons at the bottom, and you can choose, it's easiest always to start with the library. So for my first background, I'm going to choose a party. And the first thing I'm going to do, you will notice, is I have a blank background and the party background. So the blank background I'm actually going to create for my first scene. So I'm going to rename it as Scene 1, no spacing. I'm going to choose to fill it. These tools should look very familiar to you. They are just like the Photoshop tools. So bucket fill will bucket fill. Here are your foreground color, your background color, and all of the different colors that you have to choose from. If you want something you're a little more familiar with, you can switch it from the limited to view to the full view. This is a little bit backwards, where all of your colors are here, and then your shades, you would drag and change your shades if you wanted something darker or lighter or whatever you're looking for. Bucket fill. Here are your gradient tools. For this is actually going to be my second scene, so I will rename this as Scene 2. And for right now, I'm going to leave Scene 3 for later. Moving on, I'm going to go down here to my sprites. I'm going to first start with my product. Now for my product, I have created it, so I need to upload it. So I'm going to click on my upload. I am going to find where I saved it. And I am going to click open. And it will be large. Not really worried about how big the size is. We will talk about that later. The product name was something I also saved. The next thing I'm going to do is go into my library of sprites and go through and decide who I'm going to choose. And as I scroll through, let's see who I want to have as my conversation. I'm D. And I also liked to have Devin. Now at this point, I'm good with the sprites that I have, and I can start to program later on. Now, like I said, not really worried about where everything is. We will play around with that on the next video. So for today, you're going to put in your backgrounds and get in your sprites. Don't worry about the size of anything or the position of anything. We're not programming just yet or setting anything up. Good luck.